Hey guys, welcome back. It's Shelby, and for those of you who don't know, I recently got a new glue gun. It is the Boswell Hot Melt glue gun, and I am obsessed with it, so I'm looking for a reason to craft with it. And I found the perfect craft on Pinterest. It is an agate, or like a little half geode, made out of hot glue, which is perfect because I suddenly am left with a whole bunch of glue sticks for a mini hot glue gun that I no longer use, and you basically have to like chop up whole glue sticks. So it's not exactly a super cost-effective craft, but I've got these anyway. I'm no longer gonna use them because they do not fit the new gun, so I need a craft to use them up, and that's what today's craft is. So go ahead and grab yourself a cup or a cone or something that you can like make a little indentation in. This is a drinking glass that I'm actually gonna craft with later, so I just have it on my table. We're gonna use this, some foil, some old hot glue, a new hot glue gun, and some, well, I'm using Sharpies, but any markers you want and any color scheme you want. I chose some blue greens, and that's basically all you need. I'll link it all below as normal. If you like the video, go ahead and let me know by hitting that thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I'd love to see you here again, and let's get going. Okay, so I have my glue gun heating up and I have the flat tip on. For those of you who didn't catch my review, it was really me just like gushing about how much I love this gun because I love it. But I will link it above. It comes with different tips. I've got a bunch of them down here. I'm gonna start with the flat one and leave that heating up off to the side. Then I have a piece of foil, just like a small piece of foil and a glass, and I'm just going to, I think, shiny side up. Make a little indentation. There we go. Just make it kind of round, you know. Perfect, just like that. So it's a little cup of foil inside the actual cup. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is basically what we are going to use as a shape for the bottom of our geode. So I have the flat nozzle on my gun because I need to be putting basically a base layer in the inverted cone shape of glue across the foil on my cup. Use a non-meltable, burnable material like foil or something similar. Don't use like plastic wrap or anything that's gonna like melt. I don't know what temperature plastic wrap melts at, but like, you know, don't risk it. So I am using a ton of hot glue in this, which like makes me a little bit sad, but I love this flat tip. It's going in so easy, I can't even tell you. I love, love, love this gun. Anyway, we're gonna roll it around a little bit, make sure that we've filled out basically just a thin layer of hot glue around the bottom of the cone. That's all you need. All right, there we go. So we have our hot glue in the bottom of the foil. It's still liquid, you can roll it around a bit. Basically just try and get any holes out of there. You can take it out of the cup if you want, but I'm gonna keep that in there just for the shape until it dries. Since it is pretty hot, I have my gun set for 180 degrees Celsius. I'm just gonna leave it in there until it cools down a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to start prepping all of my old glue sticks. So I'm gonna change the camera angle. We're gonna start dicing these up. So I have a bunch of long mini glue sticks that I don't need because I now have a new glue gun that does not take mini glue sticks. And I'm going to cut these into little crystals for my geo. So I'm gonna cut different lengths because that's kind of important. And I think I'm gonna do more than 3 per stick. And I do have a lot more sticks than this, but I'm just gonna start with 3. Let's cut some small ones, some longer ones, but just make sure that you get a lot of different sizes and lengths. See, different lengths. Please also be super, super careful when you're cutting these. They're not exactly easy to cut, and knives can slip really easily, so just be careful. So now that we have all of our big crystal lengths, we're going to go in and shape the tops. So go ahead and just cut them off at kind of diagonal angles. This is actually harder than cutting them into little sections, so please, please, please be careful. But just try and cut those off. You can get funky with the shapes if you want. I'm just gonna start here and save your little extra pieces. We need those. So I'm just cutting a nice little diagonal. Look how that instantly looks like a crystal rather than just a stick of hot glue. It's pretty awesome. Then we're just gonna cut off a little bit more. So these are great small crystals, but then they have something that's called, and I'm gonna butcher the name, I think it's called like druzy or whatever, and that's the tiny, tiny little crystals. So we're gonna make some of those. So I'm gonna cut myself a little stick like this, and basically these are just gonna be sprinkled on at the end. I might need more, I'm not sure. I'm gonna cut it lengthwise, and this is gonna be tricky, so like, please be careful. Again, please, please, please be careful. and go down. I don't know why I didn't do that to start with. Definitely superior. There we go. Now that I have a flat side for it to lay on, it's going to be easier to cut. So I'm going to cut it into fourths, the lengthwise, like 1.5. Look at how much easier that is. Then into fourths. It's hot glue. You can tear it, close counts. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to get all of our crystals out of the way. And these I've designated to be like the little tiny druzy crystals. So I'm just going to put them up and cut them like you are cutting, I don't know, spices, I suppose would be a good analogy. Like you're like julienning spices. Get them all together. Be very, very careful of your fingers. And just cut them real small. Just real small. As small as you can get them. There we go. That should be good enough. And the glue cone looks pretty dry. So we are going to change the camera angle back and keep going. Okay, so we have our cutting board full of crystals. I did get rid of the knife because, you know, safety. I've got my cup with my little hot glue dome on it. And I've got my markers. So what I'm gonna do is basically just kind of color in the bottom of this dome. And by the bottom, I mean the top. So I'm just gonna, I have Sharpies. I think you can use whatever marker you want. Nothing's gonna happen to it and it's gonna be sealed underneath hot glue. So I'm going in with my Sharpie. I definitely should have chosen the lighter color first because I'm gonna mess up the tips now that I've used the darker first. But I'm gonna go in with my other colors and just try and keep them separate and then go in with my dark blue otherwise. So I'm gonna get it close. I'm just gonna kind of scribble on here as much as I can in big sections. I'm not trying to go super small or detailed with this. And then I think this light blue one is gonna be kind of around the edges. Blue is the theme for this, if you can't tell, but you can use whatever color you want. Purple would be great, amethyst, fabulous. It happens to be my birthstone. You could do orange for citrine, you could do red for ruby, you know, yellow. Stones and minerals and like gems and jewels, they come in all different colors. So whatever color you're feeling, go ahead and do it. I'm just feeling blue. Then what I'm gonna do is set that off to the side, take my crystals. So this is the cut diagonal piece at the top. This is the nice flat piece at the bottom. Go ahead and scribble those in with a color as well. Just go ahead and do that for all of them. I'm gonna start with dark blue and then I will change it to other blues as I go. No rhyme or reason, just kind of paint the bottom whatever color you want with your markers. We're gonna put them on there as well, and this is gonna kind of bring some of the color through the crystal, which is the hot glue itself. So you can see when you turn it, there's just like the slightest hint of color. That's what we want. So now my hot glue gun is pretty cooled off, but it's still too warm to touch, but it comes with a wrench. And I'm gonna take off the flat nozzle and just let it kind of fall onto the paper plate to finish cooling. There we go. And I'm going to take this guy, look at that extended nozzle, perfect. I'm going to put this into the gun. I'm going to tighten it with the wrench. We're going to put our little cup on a little box so you guys can see it, and put my crystals off to the side so I can access them. And we're gonna get our glue gun and just kind of plop a little circle of glue just in the center. Something nice and flat, but small enough that you're gonna be able to fill it up before it dries. But you know, you can actually work in a pretty large area fairly quickly with this craft, so don't be afraid to put like, you know, a quarter size amount in there, like a nice flat quarter. And then painted, colored flat side down, and just go ahead and stick it in 90-degree angle straight up and down. Don't let them face all the same direction though. You see how the slants are all different directions? If they face all the same direction, that looks weird. Don't do that. Don't forget to get a few smaller ones in here, and it's okay if the bottom of your crystals don't line up with the marker that you have on the dome. That's totally fine. There we go. We're just gonna add a couple like that. I'm gonna add some short ones in here. As I press it down, the main hot glue is like spreading out, like the puddle that I have in there. So I actually have a larger place to work than I thought I did. I really thought I had cut more crystals than this, but I'm running out. Can you believe it? That's terrible, but that's okay. we'll just make it a smaller one. So I'm going to kind of fan these out a little bit, make it look a little bit more natural now that the glue is starting to set. There we go. Boom, look at that. This is so cool. Here we go. We're actually gonna tilt that one way down. Boom, way down. And it's time to put in a little bit more glue. So I'm just gonna do a little bit more over here. I absolutely love that my fingers are nowhere near where the hot glue is coming out. I only have 4 more of these, so I'm just gonna stick those right in. I'm making kind of an angle. I don't want them all sticking up the same direction. So once they're in, let them dry for a moment, then stick them at an angle. The reason I'm doing that is if you stick a long one, this one's short, but that's what I've got left, in at an angle and the glue's not dry, it's just gonna doot, doot, doot with gravity and the weight of it. So let it dry a little bit, and then as it's stiffening, kind of pull it out. It's not quite hot enough in there, so I'll add a little bit more. Stick that one on. And I think I need another hot glue stick, so I'm gonna put that in real quick. And where do I want it? I think I want it over here. So I'm gonna add a little bit more just to the bottom here. You can always keep adding. That's the beauty of this project. So I only have 2 more of these, like I said. I'm gonna stick these in right like that. Just right there. So this already looks so cool, so cool. But I still have all of my tiny cut crystals and my like super tiny little crystal glitter. So we are going to add those in. The glitter, I'm literally just gonna sprinkle on at the end, but these I do need to place. So I'm gonna go back in with a little bit more hot glue around the edges where it's nice and small, nice small areas, but there we go. Kind of heat up an outer layer of glue where I can put these. Perfect. And then these I did not, these I did not paint the bottoms of, but I'm putting them in anyway because we did paint the bottom of our dome. So it's gonna reflect the color by itself, which is great. These, if you can, try to get the little sharp pointed side up. If you can't, not a big deal, they're pretty small. But do try to get that crystal shape up at the top and the flat kind of perpendicular bottom at the bottom. There we go. So all my little crystals are in there. I'm gonna show you greater detail a little bit later on, but this is looking really, really nice. And then what I wanna do is add just a little bit of hot glue in and around the crystals. So around the outside, but then also try to flood the spaces in between the crystals, if that makes sense. So I'm just kind of letting my hot glue gun go around and in between and just kind of pulling the trigger willy-nilly and just trying to get like a base layer of liquid molten glue in there, because the next step is to take these. I should have kept them all in one space on this board and I did not. There we go, but I got most of them, and sprinkle them in, get them off the table where they fell outside and sprinkle them in. That's the next step. Just grab all of them that you can. You need every single one. Just get them in there, and then I'm going to unplug my gun because I don't need it super hot anymore. But I am gonna use the long tip, and you see how some of them aren't stuck and adhered to the hot glue. I'm just gonna push them into place. This is going to attach part of them. What's great is as soon as they get super hot, part of them goes slightly translucent, which is perfect, transparent, whatever you wanna call it. No longer opaque, and you don't see the kind of whiteness that appears when you cut them. It also means that they're going to be kind of locked into place and glued down a little bit. So if you shake it upside down, hopefully they're not going everywhere and you're gonna lose all your work. Looking perfect. So we are going to let this dry, cool down for just a minute, and then finish it off. We are almost done. Okay, so this has basically fully dried. We're gonna pull it out of the cup and peel off the foil until we're just left with the dome. There we go, close counts. Go ahead and roll down the edges just in case any of them are sharp. And And this is what you're left with. I'm gonna cut it pretty close and cut through some of the glue just to get it near where my actual crystals are, because I want it to look a little bit more just like a chunk of crystal, you know? And also you can see a little bit of the outside of where the marker is if the glue is not immediately over it, and I'm not in love with that. Look at that. We are almost done, and this is awesome. So here is my outer bits. I'm gonna get rid of that. And this is super cool. The foil creates like a nice shiny back, but on the back it looks like foil and like not great. So I'm gonna show you a super awesome hack for that. I don't actually think I've done this on this channel before, but I'm gonna use the plate that I had my hot glue gun resting on and put it here. I think you guys can see that. There you go. Baking soda. Yep, that's right, baking soda. Put a fair amount of it on your plate. Go ahead and grab whatever color of acrylic paint you want. Acrylic paint oil just takes too long to dry. So I'm gonna use brown, just the base of brown, because I feel like if I try to like mix too many paints, I'm gonna lose you guys at this point. It's already been somewhat of a long craft. So you're going to want to put your paint and your baking soda on a plate. I have hot glue inside, don't bother with that. Get a brush, I have like a big goopy brush, and just mix it up, just like this. So the baking soda adds a really cool texture to the paint. It really doesn't lighten the color much, you can see, but it's gonna give it that grainy, gravelly dirt texture, which is awesome. It does dry quickly, so just be careful with that. So you're gonna wanna go in with a nice thick bristled brush, kind of scoop that goopy dirt paint up, and then go ahead and paint it onto the back of the foil. Look at that texture. So right now it's gonna go everywhere and make a mess, but once it dries, it should be okay. So look at that. Look at the difference between the foil and the like dirt. It's perfect. I do have a lot of baking soda on my plate, but that's okay. It turns the paint basically into like a clay-like paste. You can see it's just like giant. It looks like dirt, honestly, which is why I chose this one, but I think it is the perfect way to finish off this project and just give it a little bit of a realistic touch on the bottom. Like, as cool as the foil is, it definitely looks like foil. I think if you want a metallic bottom, which could be really cool, it's great. Silver, gold, whatever you want. Like, you know, I love metallic finishes, but you can tell this was set on foil if you just leave it like that. But if you paint it with this like dirt paint and then like metallicize it over it, I know it's a lot of steps, but it's gonna look so much better than if you just leave the foil. Like, it's gonna look so much more realistic. It's gonna look a lot more like a painted geode or painted dirt than just like, oh, hot glue on foil, you know? It's just gonna lend a little air of credibility. So that is the bottom, that's the textured dirt on it. I did paint the sides, and I think my brush caught a little piece right there, so I'm gonna just wipe that off with my hand while it's still wet. Kind of scrub that off a bit. And then I'm gonna let this dry and do a close-up so you guys can see what it turned out as. All right, you guys, all dry and fabulous. So look above the top, you see the different color variations with the green marker and then the blue marker. It just gives it like a really cool effect. And then you come down here and it kind of brings the color up the sticks just the very slightest amount. You can see the little like different crystals in there and how cool it is. And bringing the dirt up the edges, I think, really helps sell the idea that it was at some point a rock. You can see, okay, so maybe I didn't get all the foil as well as I thought, but you can see the texture in the paint. Honestly, baking soda and acrylic paint, it's super cool. This is so fun and I love it, and I hope you guys do too. Thanks so much for joining me on this one, guys. Bye for now.